Call to order the public hearing for ordinance O-23-03 for the official map. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have anyone here for public comment? Signed up at all?
Don't believe there were any sign-ins. No.
Yeah, are we going to,
I can, yeah, I was just going to kind of.
in the interim, while we're waiting?
In the interim, yeah. Mike, please.
So briefly, this is something bringing back to you the official map following the public hearing or public input period as you had previously authorized. As you recall, the official map is an ordinance and a planning tool provided to local governments through the municipality's planning code. The official map allows us to show locations of potential future public lands and facilities, items such as streets, trails, parks, easements, etc. This update, again, as you'll recall, focused on embedding our alignments that were identified as part of the pedestrian facilities master plan into our official map. So you will see items such as the state investment corridors, primary and secondary investment corridors, as well as greenways. There were a few additional connections that we showed on the map. A path to connect the sidewalk at Hospital Drive to the existing Orchard Road bike lanes. A path connecting Hauserville Road to Puddintown Road through Spring Creek Park. That one was specifically referenced in the narrative of the pedestrian facilities master plan, was not reflected in the mapping. That was an oversight. We wanted to capture it here in the official map. And then finally, showing the existing quarry as a land reservation. Just to make sure that the township at some point in the future, if that property is ever redeveloped or divested, that the township's at the table for those discussions. Deletions that were included or removed from the plan: the Squirrel Drive connection to Puddintown Road as a result of the development at Aspen Heights, and a shared use path along Old Bullsburg Road. This was replaced with the reservation on the quarry property. Again, as you recall at your meeting a couple months ago at this point, you authorized us to set the public hearing and do a 45-day public review on the official draft map. In the memo, which we can talk about in more detail during the agenda item, we did receive some comments back from Center Region Planning, comments from Center County Planning, as well as a handful, about 12, actually 13 surveys that were received from the public with some comments that you can consider as part of your action here this evening.
Okay.
No,
All right.
no comments.
No comments.
None online.
And none online? Okay. Council, questions, comments?
Mr. Chair, I move to adjourn the public hearing.
Okay. We'll adjourn the public hearing. All right. We'll call to order the public hearing for ordinance O-23-08. That is fireworks. And I believe, Mark, you had.
Yes, as we discussed when this was set for public hearing, in 2022, there were some changes made to Title III, Chapter 11. That is the Pennsylvania statute governing the use of fireworks. I think this also came in conjunction with the allowing of sales and use of larger fireworks in Pennsylvania that we used to have to go south of the border to find. We've noticed, while reviewing, we noticed a lot of discrepancies, and there are some mandates in that new Chapter 11. And all we did with these changes in the ordinance were to one section of our existing ordinance, which was pretty good with the exception of the consumer fireworks. And this change to our section of consumer fireworks is bringing it in line with the mandates that the state has prescribed.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
No.
Online,
No.
not signed up?
No.
Okay, not in the room. Council, questions, comments? Anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I'll second. We're adjourned. Okay, moving on to our third meeting of the night, pretty quickly. All right, we'll call to order this regular meeting of College Township Council. And before we get to public open discussion, I just comment that we did meet in executive session prior to this meeting on real estate and personnel matters. Okay, public open discussion, and this is for anything that's not included on tonight's agenda. Please ask that you go ahead, if you're online, raise your hand. If you're in the room, just go ahead and approach the podium, and we'll try to limit to 5 minutes per person. Do we have anyone? Okay. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Ruth House Pressler. My ancestors founded this area, so I'm not going to tell you all that boring stuff. I have noticed there are tractor trailers going through Pike Street now that were never there before, and they're not delivering locally. They're going straight up Ridge Road and delivering to Giant, the water truck. Yesterday morning, I got the mail, came down Mary Street. If there are cars parked in front of Ed Nearwood's house, you can't see traffic coming. I damn near got hit broadside. I called the township. Sue Smith's wonderful sign that said concert you couldn't see to the right to see if cars were coming up. There's something wrong with the center of my town. It's not the little community that it used to be. Now, when did we lose the weight limit on Pike Street?
Okay.
Because semis were never coming through there.
I don't know that there ever was a weight limit on that. Maybe on the bridges?
Should be posted. if
I
there's
don't
weight
know, but there are tractor trailers coming through Lamont. And that road ain't wide enough. You guys made sure of that. I saw 2 buses and a triaxle dump truck going this way, and if somebody would have had their hand out the window, somebody would have lost it. And that was yesterday too. I don't know. You gotta do something to protect our town. I used to play downtown. We walked downtown. We went to either the Arrowhead store, the Clover Farm store. There was a bank. I've been in the Underground Railroad that nobody's supposed to know about. It's not our little town anymore. I mean, to me, and I have deer in my yard, I have turkeys in my yard, you know, I live on the hill. And sometimes I've gotten up and found people that are too tired to walk up the hill sitting in my yard. Believe it or not. So I don't know if you can do something to stop all this. It would be different if they were coming in and delivering tombstones to mazes, but they don't. They go straight through and up to Giant. So it's a shortcut.
Okay. So you believe they're using it as a cut through to the other side of town?
Well, that's when they started working on the road earlier in my youth, you didn't have the traffic from Atherton Street to Better Pike that you do now. And there's times that you have to wait and wait and wait and wait to get through. Also, you might have the police come and watch that red light because there's people running it. And unfortunately, that was put there, the red light was put there when an international student ran the stop sign and hit a guy's car broadside and killed him. That's when the light went in. And it was in the mid-70s. Okay, I know you guys probably weren't here then.
You're talking about the one at Pike and Elmwood, right? Yes, okay.
Yep. And the man's name was John Watkins that died. So, I mean, you know, And I've lived here forever. I mean, I can remember when we had the slaughter shop. I can remember my grandfather had the cobbler shop. You know, it's,
Okay.
I haven't planned on going anywhere yet.
Thank you, ma'am.
You know, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so Don's not here tonight as far as, but I'm sure Adam, you'll talk to Don about observations on, what kind of traffic's coming through there,
I
right?
can speak just very quickly to the police being active. Once Pike Street had actually wrapped up, the police had a very good presence at the intersection. Primarily, what was happening, we were witnessing a lot of violations of no right turn. And so the police had for a number of weeks, they were there specifically looking for that.
I can attest to that, I've seen that.
And it's very easy. We can get in contact with the police about some additional enforcement relative to the stoplights. So.
Dustin, you do have a hand up on your.
Yeah, Sue. Adam, sorry, did you have anything
No,
else?
that's it.
Yeah.
She's on, here we go.
Sue Smith, please.
I made it. I have a brand new computer and I have no idea what's happening. Anyway, the Lamont Village Association has a big project going on. We're going to be restoring and rehabilitating the one left side of the green elevator. And I just wanted to give a big shout out to the township crew because they came today and they cleaned out something that we couldn't do without the leaf sucker. And I wanted to say thank you, and that means the contractor can start probably next week. So it's very exciting to see that happening, and we'll be glad to have that building finished. So thanks very much to Adam and Amy and everybody else who helped.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Council, comments, questions? Okay. Any other public comment? Okay. All right, we will move on to any new agenda items, council members. Okay. All right, so plans, sketch plan number 1, Maxwell subdivision sketch plan.
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay, thank you.
We have a brief presentation, and tonight, Mr. Toretti and Mr. Maxwell are both here if you have any specific questions. This is the overview of the site itself. This is the Maxwell at Shiloh Road sketch plan presentation. Next slide, please. And along with the sketch plan was a pretty extensive narrative that will explain what we'll see here on the next few slides. Next slide, please. This sketch plan proposes the re-subdivision of these 7 properties, which will vary in size from 1 to 5 acres. On this plan is just the full overview of the property showing some access roads. And if you could go to the next slide. This just zooms in to show you give you a better idea of the proposal. And along with the subdivision, next slide please, is the proposed hotel on one of these lots. So the Planning Commission saw this at their meeting on Tuesday, and some of their comments included, let's see, will the roads be dedicated? They questioned, since a portion of this property is in the wellhead protection area, that came up. There was discussion of a transit stop. They didn't see anyone close to the area, and wanted to know more about plans for all of the lots, but in general, and specifically the lot 4 that has the apple tree in the barn. And then again, they asked about connection to the Clare property. And also at the Planning Commission, we indicated that, and we received comment from the Center Regional Planning Commission. We, per the ordinance, have to submit the plan to them for informational purposes. So Jim May did get back to us and talked about a connection, pedestrian connection from C3 Sports or the church to the property, and then also a pedestrian connection to the Claire property. So that's all I have. If you have any questions, I can help, but they're
All
here as
right.
well.
All right. Gentlemen, have anything you want to add before we go to council?
A little bit here. I'm Mark Toretti with Pentair Engineering, and this is Ed Maxwell. He is the owner, developer of the properties. If you want to go back to the previous slide, that would be a good one here. First part of the project is going to be developing or subdividing. Currently, there's 3 existing lots, and we're going to be re-subdividing them and replanting them into actually 8. One of them is existing, this one here will be replotted, but then there's 7 other proposed lots. They're all zoned commercial in the C1 zoning. And with that, like he says, what we are proposing, as far as that reflects or not, I'm going to hit you in the eye, pretty much having an entrance road in, and what we're doing is proposing a connection up to the Clear property. I mean, we will end up with cul-de-sac, but even dedicate the right-of-way up to the Clear property. So if that is developed in the future, a connection can be made up in that area. I know there's a road on the official map that comes through on the Clear property there. So that's what we're looking at for connection and planning ahead for the future, that aspect of it. The primary drive and force in this was there is basically has a hotel developers looking at lot 3 that is a 3-acre lot. That was one of the driving forces in laying this out, was providing a 3-acre lot in a location that they would accept. And then we noticed also that the prime other areas for visibility are right along Shiloh Road, and so we're pretty much keeping the existing Maxwell site where its office is there, and then adding 2 more smaller lots up against Shiloh Road. But you're never going to get access off of Shiloh Road into those lots. There's a steep grade up. They sit up a lot higher, and so what we are having is a shared driveway for these lots and for lot 3 that will get access to them through the rear of the property, and then serve all those in that aspect of it. Also then for lots like 4, even for lot 3, that'll provide 2 access points for the hotel as that comes up. We are planning stormwater management for the roadway in these 2 areas here on the site. They said this is in the wellhead protection zone, so we can't infiltrate. We'll be having liners for the basins, in the basins, and working around that. And then each lot will have to provide their own stormwater management, also meeting the wellhead protection ordinance. Sidewalks along the roadways for those interconnections, and also a sidewalk along the shared entrance drive along there. Like Lindsay had said, we're going to look at some type of connection maybe over towards the theater site there, even like for if someone from the hotel wants to go to the theater, it'd be a little bit more direct route. So that was a comment that we had looked at. The primary focus right now are these lots in there that could be the driving force for developing it. And as it gets developed, I think Ed will look more at what occurs in these ones. He's had some interest in the front lots also. But for the subdivision, that's kind of what's going on. And we will be submitting that concurrently with a land development plan for a hotel in that area there. I'm not sure if you want to switch to the next slide then, Lindsay. Yeah, and this is for a 115-room hotel. It's in lot 3. Like I said, right after we had submitted this file, we had gotten a new footprint from the hotel that they're looking at actually having the main entrance over on the west side, drop-off. We'll be losing those parking areas. There'll be a drop-off area in there. So based upon that, like I said, we think this would be more of the main entrance in on that shared entrance drive. And then having access all around the hotel with regards to sidewalk connections and also parking, being able to circulate the whole way around. And then a secondary access will be coming up. Right now I'm just calling this East Trout Road, and that'll be coming up, and then having access off of that for the hotel at this point in time. Stormwater will be provided on site. We're looking at basically mostly underground system for that, since we can't infiltrate, and working with the township engineer regarding that aspect of it. We have submitted a traffic impact study scoping request to the township and the PennDOT to get a scope to start the traffic impact study for this and for the subdivision. That's occurring where the traffic engineer is waiting, is waiting to get the actual scope back from PennDOT so that they can start the study. They did take counts last weekend because it was the first away football game since classes have started for Penn State, so counts were taken last weekend, and once we get some more information from PennDOT, they'll be moving forward with the study itself. Do you have anything else to add at this point in time? So that's in general brief summary. We just wanted to get this in front of you, as a concept plan, a sketch plan, get any initial thoughts, get your input on it as we start moving forward. So.
Okay, thank you. I know that you submitted a report, Mr. Hoffman, but I didn't know if you wanted to add anything from PC's perspective on this.
Really, it's been covered. I think
Yeah.
Lucy and Mark and everyone have covered it.
Okay.
The
Thank
only
you.
comment I do have, though, is that we all approved it. We all thought it was a good plan. And we're looking forward to the land development submission.
Okay. All right, council, let's go online first. So we'll start out with Eric. Questions or comments?
Of course.
We can't see you, Eric. We just see you look like a
I
map.
can see him, but yeah.
Yeah, a sketch.
Four questions, mostly for staff, and then a comment. Well, first a comment for Mark and Ed. You know, as always, appreciate the voluntary process here with the sketch plan. Always helpful. Is for us tonight, first question for staff, this is a sketch plan for both, right? I mean, a sketch plan for comments on the subdivision and for the land development plan, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Second question, the sidewalks shown on the subdivision plan, I know they're just shown as part of the sketch. Is the difference between Trout Road and the other one, the other unnamed road, is that because Trout is a collector and sidewalks are required on both sides?
I'll answer that, Eric. This is Mark. Basically, that one's just like a private, it's going to be a shared driveway going back to those lots. And so right now, we're proposing just a sidewalk on one side of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
then I think that answers my next question is, Trout Road will be built to township spec and be a public street?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just asking, Mark, because, you know, we were together over the Premier Drive
Yes.
deal. All right, then the last question is, the wellhead, 60%, I saw that the area within wellhead limits impervious to 60%. Is there anything, just for my information, is there anything else significant that will significantly affect the land development plan moving forward because it's in the wellhead other than the impervious?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I'll take that
Go
one,
ahead,
Mark.
okay.
So, yeah, on Adam here, Eric, yeah, the one item that the College Township Water Authority is concerned about would have to be the actual excavation of the site, the preparation of the site. And the authority representatives have already been meeting with Mr. Maxwell relative to a potential blasting plan. In fact, we have the proposed blasting plan or excavation plan is under review by hydrogeologists to assist us in making some determinations about what will be safe, given the close proximity of the Rogers well on Trout Road to this location. So in addition to the some of the stormwater impervious issues, that would probably be the other most significant issue pertaining to the wellhead protection area. With all that said, it's not anticipated that this is, we don't anticipate that we are not going to be able to overcome this situation. It's a matter of degree and process, I think, as much as anything. At least that's our initial reaction at this point in time, but we'll wait and continue to work with the developer as this comes through.
Okay, so that's great. That sounds fine. So it sounds like as far as when we see a preliminary or final land development plan, the impervious is the only thing that would be that much different than what we would see if we weren't in the wellhead. Much of the other differences will be in the actual oversight or the process of being more careful developing the site.
Yeah, that's true. Primarily, the wellhead protection identifies very specific uses that are not allowable. In this particular case, the use that's being contemplated here is not an issue, and so you are correct about the impervious.
Okay, and then the comment, and this is just a general comment, since the official map was on the agenda. Clearly, Trout Road is heading in the opposite direction proposed than what's on the map, and honestly, I agree with everyone that said, looking at this site, I think Mark and Ed have done a great job. I agree with the Planning Commission, I agree with staff, but we ought to be thinking about, how we're going to pivot from what we have on the official map. And I'm just saying that because the official map shows Trout Road a more direct connection with Ellis Place, particularly hooking up with the road that was built, is going to be built as part of, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's part of the Stocker development. So the likelihood of getting a through connection was probably going to happen sooner had this subdivision plan followed the official map. If we go with this arrangement up to the Clare property, which honestly I have no problem with, but we're likely not going to have a connection, if I understand this correctly, to Ellis Place for a much longer time. Is that a fair observation? Accurate, fair?
We did discuss that a little on a staff level, but at this point, I can't, I'm not sure.
Okay. So Lindsay, let me ask you this. Did that come up at all with the Planning Commission?
The official map? No, we didn't discuss the official map road at the Planning Commission.
Yeah. And I understand the purpose of the official map is it's kind of our wish list, our one opportunity to be a little bit proactive. But I'm just pointing out at this point, if everyone is comfortable with the fact that Trout Road as presented, and I understand why. I understand why it's designed. It makes sense for what Ed wants to do with the property. That it is, pivoting in a different direction from the official map. And if everybody's fine with that, we probably ought to have, at least in the back of our minds, a backup plan. So that's it.
Yeah, the one observation I guess that I would make, Eric, is that the cul-de-sac end of East Trout Road is poised, in this configuration, is poised to connect to the Clare property. Whereas, to your point, the Ellis Place connection would basically bend the other way. Correct?
Yes.
So the one thing, so you're absolutely correct in the observation. The only thing that I would say is the one thing that we have not contemplated at this point relative to the official map is a potential future connection to the Clare property. And that is, maybe that's a trade-off, maybe it is not, but I think it speaks to the issue that you're bringing up. I might contend that given the fact that we have not anticipated going in this direction in order to create secondary access points to the Clare property, that this as presented this evening certainly would do so. But there's no refuting the fact that you're absolutely correct. By going in this particular direction, we're not, it doesn't contemplate making a connection to Ellis Place.
Yeah, and let me be clear with Ed and Mark. I appreciate and value the secondary access from the Clare site.
Can you just do the laser pointer on the Ellis Place area, just for the public?
It goes
thank
over,
you.
this is Premier Drive.
Yep.
It goes over. and goes
Thanks, Mark.
Down here to Ellis Place, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And current, with the Stalker plan, Premier will connect to Ellis.
Yeah.
Oh, it will?
Yes.
Yeah.
Will the Stockwood plan connect with Premier Drive?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so
okay,
we have,
then.
yeah, so we have that whole connection, you know, but it's going,
Then,
it's going to
what's
drive
the
a
name
bit.
from Saturday Night Live? Never mind.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Eric, because I mean, that basically takes Ellisnet over to Driverless Road, that signal over there. So in some ways, not everything is coming out at the Trout Road signal. We're splitting it up a little bit on both ends of it, so.
But if I can just jump in with one additional comment, it addresses a little bit of what Eric's referencing and probably tips my hand a little bit to a later agenda item. As we go through the official map, one of the things that staff recognizes as the work continues out here in Dale Summit with the revitalization plan and the shift in zoning, we anticipate that the official map's going to get reopened at some point to talk about connections and how to tie this area together a little bit better. So your point's well taken, Eric, and while this isn't maybe how it was originally envisioned in the current official map, living documents, something that we anticipate, we're going to probably be opening up here in the next, 18 to 24 months to talk about again and what those connections could look like in the future.
Yeah, plus, property owners have a little bit better idea of things than people drawing lines on maps, probably. All right, Eric, anything else?
No, knowing what I know now, I think this is actually better. Because if we're already getting that connection, then what's happening here is Ed and Mark are getting the best use of their property, and we're getting secondary access to the Clare site. So
Okay.
it appears to be a win-win.
All right, so you retract your further statement.
Sorry to have wasted that 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, we're used to it, Eric, it's okay. Too bad I couldn't see him on video. Susan, anything to add?
All right, listen, I
You're
can
right.
go on. If my math is right, I might have another chance to be chair before I talk.
Touche, all right. Susan, please.
Okay, thank you. So first, I'd like to thank Mr. Toretti and Mr. Maxwell. I think the narrative was very helpful. I had a chance to read through that, and I'm getting to know how to read sketch plans thanks to some tutoring from Lindsay and Mike. I'm still not an expert at it. And I did live out in that area and did take a drive out there to take a look around. I did stay quarantined in my car, by the way. So I have very general questions. I appreciate the deliberations in the Planning Commission on Tuesday night, which I was able to watch as well. So I appreciate all the comments up until now. It's been tremendously helpful. So really, most of my questions are answered. I have a general question, which may not relate specifically to your sketch plan, Mr. Maxwell, but more related to the development of another hotel in the Dale Summit area. Eric made a comment at our last meeting that some of the more frequent comments I get from residents in the township now that I'm on council are about the abandoned hotel, over off this road, and I saw on statecollege.com that there was mention made of development of a new hotel, and I've already heard from a couple of residents. And what I don't know is how do we decide, you know, when we build more hotel rooms, bring more hotel rooms? I didn't even know where to look for that. So this may be a question outside tonight's discussion, and I'm happy to bring that up somewhere else. But I'm curious about, you know, the idea of developing the hotel in that region at this point. I anticipate that might be questions from some of the residents as they start to hear more about this. But I have no questions about the sketch plan and understanding the connectivity over there. You know, it all sounds as good as possible to someone like me at this point, so thank you for that.
Okay. All right, Rich?
Yes, as Eric said, thank you so much for the sketch plan. Mr. Toretti, you're here not asking for a waiver. It's a good day, Tater. I do have a question on the sidewalk. What is the impetus? I understand on the short leg that goes past Mr. Maxwell's existing property. What is the onus to have it on the lot 1, 2 side versus the lot 3, 4 side?
You mean here?
Yes.
This one?
Yes.
I mean, it could go on either side. I mean, that's.
I didn't know if there was a special reason.
No, there wasn't.
Just something to think about in accessing the hotel.
Yeah, well, see, yeah, and if you go to the hotel, I mean, my thoughts were, you know, if you go to the hotel, see this one there, you know, we are having a connection out here. It's just, I don't know what's going to be happening here. You know, the 3 separate lots, will there be more users on that side using it, or vice versa? It could be on either side.
It's crystal ball stuff.
Yeah,
I just throw it out as a potential consideration that, you know, then it's going more directly to the hotel.
Yeah.
Assuming Mr. Maxwell's going to be in business on that lot for a longer time, it, you know, probably wouldn't have as much use for him as potentially lot 3.
Yeah.
But just for consideration, and then the other one was at the secondary in the back, possible consideration for connecting that sidewalk at the cul-de-sac onto the property, to the hotel. You know, only thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Thinking what might go in the surrounding areas behind that at some point.
I mean, yeah, that connection will be made.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. To the official map stuff, it's crystal ball stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we're making the best guesstimates. This may influence what it is, but we got a couple of other irons in the pot that might just as well. So, but greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Anthony?
No, well, I'll just echo, I appreciate the sketch plan. I appreciate not coming and asking for a waiver, but on that same note of a waiver, so the existing Maxwell plan, did we have a waiver on Shiloh Road or was it for when it became developed that we were going to put sidewalks in there? It was an actual waiver, or was it when they came forth with another, whether it was a subdivision or?
Yeah, there's a note on the plan.
It was waived with a note on the plan that when the neighboring this property or the neighboring property develops, the sidewalk will be completed along Shiloh. And, well, that was we actually talked, I think that was a prime example of that being a good thing to waive, because it sounds like they're gonna do some trimming on that hill, and that sidewalk that would have been built would have been destroyed. And that was the request when they asked for that waiver at the time, was we need to wait till we develop.
Understood,
Yeah.
but does this trigger if the note on the plan was for?
Well, this is a new land development plan, so I guess technically if they did not want to build to the end, they should request a deferral on the completion to the end of their property, because it opens the whole thing up again.
Are you asking if there's a sidewalk out along?
I know there's no
along
sidewalk on Shiloh Road, so I'm asking, when we reviewed that last, was it a waiver, a complete waiver where there's no sidewalk necessary, or did we ask, like we usually do, for when they come before with a plan, that it be built then? And if that's the case, I'm not saying we can review it, whether it needs to be built or not, but I think there's something that triggered that. If memory serves me well, I think that's that. And since we are talking about pedestrian connectivity and so forth, and then we're seeing a lot of development on Shiloh Road, we should review that.
But obviously, the note on the plan is going to dictate what the obligation is, and I don't know what the note on the plan specifically says.
I don't remember, that's what I'm asking.
But I do believe that there was something to the effect that when properties are developed adjacent in this vicinity, that there would in fact be sidewalk constructed. But we have to review the note of the plan, and I don't have that right now.
That's fine, so if we can, I mean, again, appreciate what's coming forward, but we just, I'll say, so we connect the dots to what we have from prior to now, we should look at that.
Yeah, thanks. It was good insight.
And I mean, probably, I'm just thinking out loud and I are talking, it was the access, like the sidewalk, we want to put it pretty much right on the property line or on our side or right at the edge of the property line, when on Shiloh Road in those areas. And looking at the grades, I know we are going to knock down some of this mound here, basically the high point there, and try to level that off and get those prepared. And we'll have to see, like ideally, when these are developed, would be the ideal time to build them on our end of it. That's what we would request, because they aren't going to have access from across the street at this point in time due to the slope. And these should be happening before anything happens up at Claire. And as we move along, these should develop. I think they'll make those.
No, I appreciate that, Mark. I think we just need to look at it, and I'm not saying, from the perspective that, but we should be looking at it, or staff should be looking at it along with you guys to go from there, because, I mean, if memory serves me well, we had something on that corner.
Yeah, to Anthony's point, I think that's something that you folks probably need to contemplate when you put together the actual land development submission about how that treatment is going to happen there. But again, before we jump to a conclusion, we want to look at what that note on the plan says.
And hopefully, like, I know, like, says we get the stalker, we get the deferral, and I think it's like for 2 years. Next thing you know, Arise comes in, and, we don't have to really worry about that. And hopefully, the same thing happens out here, too. That's, I think once the lots are created, he has gotten some interest on those front lots, but that's why we've got to get this moving, primarily for the hotel. But I think when those lots are officially created, I think he can really kind of talk more about that.
Yep, sure. Go ahead, Adam, please.
Question. Right now, the high point in the hill is used for display of equipment. What are you guys thinking relative to when the subdivision goes through? And I know that you're talking about knocking down some of that hill, trying to level that off. Will you be, I guess, where do you anticipate having your display?
We anticipate having it where it is.
Okay.
Everybody says what's happening with these two lots. I'm sure there's interest, but if there's interest, there has to be enough interest for us to change what we're doing.
I understand.
Everyday business.
Okay.
So
that's.
I don't anticipate that interest, so that, kind of goes on the sidewalk thing. Sure, there's going to be a sidewalk there when it makes sense. Our request is when it makes sense, let's put a sidewalk in. We put a sidewalk along the road on that side, which gives pedestrians access on those lots. Nobody's going to walk up that hill, right?
Right, not now, no.
So something's going to happen on that grade. We don't know what it is. So what we would say is, as we were granted before, if it's not going to go anywhere and it's not going to be used, let's wait to build it until it makes sense. We are building a sidewalk that does make sense. Now, for the grade, we know where that road is. We know that that's going to be established. Put a sidewalk in. So, you're asking me to look in the crystal ball or what I'm going to do in the next 10 years. Well, I'm probably going to be doing business there. But some of that, as our industry is changing, some of that display, some of that those snowplows, some of that stuff that we move in volume doesn't need to be there like it did. So there was a time when we were trying to grow our snowplow business. We brought that equipment in, people came there and it left. Doesn't do that as much anymore. We don't need that space. As you can see, there's not as much equipment there. So now we're getting drop ships, so people are making orders and it's going right to wherever it goes. So Mark has changed a little bit too,
Okay.
but I don't really have a good answer.
Well, no, actually, I mean, that
But I want to
was,
respect, I understand the community's goal for sidewalks. I live on a street that doesn't have sidewalks, so I get it. But I also think, as you get variance, whatever, that sidewalks make sense when they make sense. Let's not put a sidewalk in the middle of nowhere when we don't know where it needs to be, but if there's sidewalks, when they need to happen.
You can't say that.
that's right.
Less travel.
You're gonna have to educate.
Less travel.
us, Mark, you're not allowed to say a sidewalk to nowhere.
You can't say that.
Never.
All right. Hey, I just said, did you have a follow-up?
No, it was mainly just so we can review it to ensure that whatever we need to do there is done.
We know what needs to be done, we know what's going to be done, when it needs to be done, we'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just want to make comment to you two gentlemen too. Thank you, very good sketch plan. Also, thank you for, apparently making our, draft official map not accurate again. As it goes. I appreciate the comments too from fellow council members like Anthony too, like connecting those dots. My only question kind of came in from what Jim May had said about a pedestrian walkway connecting into the theater. And what was, did you guys have a chance to think about that? What's that look like? Is that even coming across the Maxwell property?
Well, Jim's comment was specific to C3 Sports and the church.
Oh, okay.
I think Mark and staff, we discussed that connection between.
I think is what we're gonna look at.
Yeah.
We feel that makes more sense, because it accesses the movie theater and the access to C3 Sports.
And that is on your property
That is
then?
my property, yeah. So that's a little more attainable, that's a
Yeah.
little reasonable instead of.
Yeah, I would concur with that. I think that's I like that idea. It's kind of cool, right? And then plus, I think your hotel developer would like that, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
makes sense for everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you might have to drive from the hotel to the theater.
Yeah.
If you couldn't really.
Still.
Which.
Not safely.
Uber over. All right, thanks, guys. Staff, anything additional to add? Okay, all right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, are we moving on to reports? All right. Let's start out with the manager's update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With respect to the Dale Summit Small Area Plan, which is, as we know, is kind of morphed into a consideration of a type of form-based code and working with our consultant DPZ. Staff did review the very first draft of comments of code, if you will, that we received from DPZ. And while it was not a complete and total code, there were various elements that were in there that allowed us to actually meet here in College Township with representatives from DPZ to discuss those items and get a little more clarity on some things. I know this was a topic that came up at the Planning Commission meeting, and I think that Lindsay has addressed in an email today to Planning Commission the items that were discussed. But they had to do with a variety of things, such as definitions. Some of our definitions that we already have in our zoning code are likely going to be able to be utilized in the new form-based code, and so there was conversation about that. We had talked about some of the sign permitting and sign elements, and likewise with the definitions, our standards for signs, I believe, are going to be able to be almost fully integrated with the sign recommendations from the DPZ makes relative to form-based code. And the other principal item that was discussed, I think it was roadway standards as well. The engineer had an opportunity to take a look at some of the cross-sections that DPZ had presented for discussion and was able to make a few comments. So I think that staff was very comfortable in terms of working with DPZ on site. All of this is leading up to a second draft that we're anticipating sometime in the next 30 to 45 days from DPZ. And at that time, staff would do a relatively cursory review, but it's anticipated that at that point, we would be ready to begin a conversation, likely with some type of a joint meeting between PC and council, kind of to kick off the actual review process. So we are making progress. I think that the first draft was really just that. There was a lot of clarity still needs to be added to what DPZ has produced, but I do believe that we're on the right track, and I do look forward to the second draft that's going to be coming. So moving on from that, there are a couple of comments there for council to read at your leisure with respect to the solar power purchasing agreement. Unless our assistant manager would like to make any specific comments on that, and that's up to you.
Yeah, no, the next meeting of the working group will be next week on the 27th. And it's kind of one of these y'all come type meetings where the school district wants to have a pretty in-depth discussion on where things stand as we're working through some legal review with the two potential vendors. So this is an important discussion. I think at our last meeting we talked a little bit about some of the concerns that have been raised by a number of the members, ourselves included, about where things stand with the solar power purchasing agreement. I do think the school district recognizes that and maybe shares some of those concerns. I do, or am aware, I guess, that the school board will be having a discussion prior to the meeting on the 27th to talk through some of their concerns as well. So.
Moving on, the last item is that with respect to the recent rezoning request involving the planned research business district, we have a meeting with the developer to discuss the preparation of a sketch plan. And that'll happen early next week. We don't have one at the moment, and so this will be a preparatory meeting to give some advice and guidance about how that should actually be shown, be developed, and be brought forward to both Planning Commission and Council. So I do expect that at some point in the next several weeks, there would likely be a sketch plan before both PC and Council relative to that proposal. So stay tuned on that. And the last item that I wanted to mention, it's not actually part of the report, it's an inclusion, but it has to do with the Center County Housing Land Trust. You may recall that we have a memorandum of understanding with the Land Trust to provide for the administration of the workforce housing units that are now online as part of the Aspen Heights development. And as part of that MOU, there's an annual obligation for an annual report, and that has been included as part of the manager's update. One quick update to this report, which was dated September 8th. As you recall, there's 28 workforce housing units, all one-bedroom units that have been designated by Aspen as workforce housing, required by the township and designated by Aspen. And of those 28, as of just last week, 21 of the 28 have in fact been leased. So we're very pleased with the progress that has been made there. There are additional applications, if you will, in the hopper to be reviewed and income verified, but that is working out very, very well. I'm very pleased with the efforts on the part of staff, and I have to say I'm very pleased with the efforts that have been made on the part of Aspen Heights as well. They've done a very nice job implementing this, and kudos to the foresight that council had in the development of our 2008 workforce housing ordinance, requiring very minimal restrictions relative to rental workforce housing units. That has allowed for exactly what is happening at the moment at Aspen to occur. And I think that was very prescient on the part of council at the time, and I think it's now paying some dividends. And it's an effort that I would like us to see replicated as we move forward in reviewing and updating that workforce housing ordinance here, but I also think it's a model for the region as a whole, specifically with respect to workforce housing, affordable rentals. So homeowner occupied is a little different, a few different types of challenges, but the rental aspect here, I think we have hit on a very good approach to addressing that issue. So the report's there. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to address that.
Okay, questions or comments for the manager? We'll start out with Anthony.
None, thank you.
Rich?
None, thank you.
Susan? Eric? Yeah, my only question was just for education. So the Center County Housing and Land Trust, which is Exhibit A, the schedule of fees, right? So is that, we pay that to them? Is that how, for their services? That's part of the memorandum?
Part of the memorandum of understanding is
Yep.
each year, there's a total of $8,400 that is due and owing to the land trust for providing those services,
Yep.
which involve income verification, et cetera. And that $8,400 is actually split. 50% is paid by College Township, and 50% is paid by Aspen. So the township share of that is $4,200, and that has been paid for this most current period.
Okay. Yeah, and just as a comment, Adam, you're 100% right. You know, I heard this on the radio talking about a federal recognition of where that middle housing is missing, right? You have single-family homes, you have, high-rise apartments, but you don't necessarily have, townhouses, rentals for, one single bedrooms and things that are widely available throughout the United States. Yeah, so pat ourselves in the back and keep it going, right? Okay. Okay, let's move on to COG Regional County and Liaison reports. So we have a few submitted reports. Some came in late, like my own. And so I'll ask what I'm tracking right now. Anthony, you had one meeting, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I didn't submit the report, but we're still discussing the refuse and at the Climate Action and Sustainability Committee, the refuse and recycling contract. So we're working with a consultant, MWS out of Maryland. Two of the things that came up, and maybe it was just new to me, or not new to me, but revisited, if you will, that are coming up in this contract. We're still going to continue to review it and projected to put an RFP before COG in November. But until then, so they decided to go with an RFP versus an RFB. Automated cart collection is going to be one of the things that they're going to look into. I know we looked into that in the past. So I just wanted to put that up. And we were looking at 3 different sizes of carts. The hauler will own those carts. The sizes will be 95 gallon, 65 gallon, and 35 gallon. With that, it's going to be a clause in there that the residents select the size that they want, and they'll have 30 days to change it with no charge. Still under discussion, if you will. The other one that came up is how to handle bulk waste, if they're going to continue to do it twice a year, or the discussion set a minimum or the bidders will set a minimum and make a proposal with costs included in the base service. But basically that would be, it means that the residents would have to call to schedule, or they'll set dates and the residents have to call in and say, yes, I have stuff at the curb to come and pick up. I'll say my point of view on that was it's going to be an education to the citizens. So we're going to be talking about it again next month. I just wanted to put that before council if they had any comments on there. I just thought, my comment at the committee meeting was you're going to have to educate a lot of people if they have to understand that they have to call in to say, I have stuff to come and pick up.
Right. Questions for Anthony? Comments?
If I may?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the group of people you're gonna have to educate are managers, because I don't understand that. Relative to, is there some anticipated cost savings relative to?
The only cost savings I get out of it is, say, the consultant that we use, and I just made the comment, I think the only cost savings that anyone gets out of it are the haulers. From that perspective, because we're doing their job. But it didn't strike them well. But in any event, I'm willing to take comments back.
It's very interesting.
The comment that I would leave you with is that I'm highly suspect of that provision.
The comment I would leave is if it, this system has been in place forever, eons in many places, is it broken? Do we really need to reinvent it? That's my comment. Yeah.
I think it's implied that there'll be a reduction in waste removal.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Questions, comments for Anthony? You good?
Good.
All right, let's, Eric, you had one meeting, but then you also submitted a written report with some great pictures, right?
Yeah, MPO did meet last night. I haven't had a chance to report, so I could just give a very brief update.
Okay.
It was a pretty full agenda, but there were 4 agenda items worth noting. The first was we did some fairly routine tip revisions. The second was we are familiar with the grant application that we put in for the Path to Campus. That's one of 2 submitted by entities in Center County for this funding source, the Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program. The deadline for submission was earlier this month, for the preliminary submission. Now it's up to the MPO to put together a committee to evaluate and prioritize the projects coming from within our MPO. So our action item last night was to approve the structure of that committee, which involves MPO and county planning staff and 2 volunteer representatives from Tech Committee who do not come from one of the municipalities or regions that are submitting applications, to prioritize them based on the criteria that PennDOT has set for evaluating the grants. Then they'll come back in November to both the Tech and Coordinating Committee with the their recommended priorities, with the recommendations on how they prioritize these 2 applications, and then they'll go forth to PennDOT. That all has to be done, I think, by December 1st. And if this process follows the same timeline that it has, this is a grant opportunity that comes up every 2 years. If this process follows the same timeline as in the past, we should get notification from the state on those 2 grant applications sometime in early spring of 2024. It's noteworthy because College Township has submitted one of those 2 grants. Submitted is one of the applicants, one of the 2 applicants for that grant funding. The third item was the MPO strategic plan. As you know, we went through a very deliberate exercise to develop a strategic plan with the guidance from a consultant from PennDOT. It's time to implement some of those recommendations from the strategic plan. And what we got last night was an update from staff on what I had determined in conjunction with staff to be the items that needed to move forward sooner rather than later. Some of those changes involve changes to the MPO's bylaws. Bylaws that hadn't been updated really or amended for about 20 years because they involve length of term limits, staggering terms, and more notably, the structure of the Tech Committee. So we really wanted to get these things done. We really wanted to get the bylaws amended before the end of the calendar year so we could hit the ground running with these changes in 2024. And then the last thing, and I will say, it should be noted because our technical committee representative is affected by this, College Township's Tech Committee rep. One of the recommendations from the strategic plan is to restructure the Tech Committee. And we will be reducing the size of the Tech Committee and in fact, eliminating 12 positions on the Tech Committee and then supplementing the Tech Committee with subject matter experts appointed on an ad hoc basis based on what we need subject matter experts on from year to year. To me, that was the one holdup. That was the one thing I was most uncomfortable with in moving this forward so soon, was cutting loose 12 tech committee members. So last night I put forth the suggestion, and it was endorsed by the coordinating committee, that we extend an invitation to those 12 tech committee members to continue to serve, at least in the interim, as subject matter experts. So, Don, you're not off the hook yet. The last item was, we saw the first draft of the calendar year 2024 MPO budget. And this is tied to the strategic plan. Normally, this is a fairly routine effort with minimal incremental increases in the budget from year to year. But because of the suggested changes in the MPO structure, and in this case, the proposed addition of a staff position and the budgeting for some contracted consultant help, both of which to help us try to take advantage, position ourselves better to take advantage of this unprecedented opportunity that the recent bill legislation has presented, has given us to access funding for bridge, road, bike, ped projects that we wouldn't otherwise be able to afford with our annual formula allotment. It does increase the MPO's budget significantly, somewhere close to about $500,000. And that would increase in revenue would be shared somewhat proportionately between PennDOT, the county, and the member municipalities. And it's not insignificant, but this is a this is a unique opportunity. At least that's how I hope the COG Finance Committee and the county will see it. And with that, I was informed at MPO last night that I think Rich will be sharing with us here shortly the dates of the 4 planned Finance Committee work session meetings. The MPO's budget, I believe, is scheduled to be discussed at the Thursday, the September 28th meeting, sometime about the 2-hour mark, if my information was correct. And lastly, I would say that I'm hoping, actually all the MPO members and staff are hoping that as the budget moves through its deliberations, that the participating agencies, member municipalities, the county, will not evaluate the budget request based solely on the effect, in this case the increase of their portion, of their local share portion of the MPO budget. But given that, I couldn't help to take a peek at what College Township's increase was, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $30,000. So I'll end with that.
Dropping the mic there, Eric, thanks. All right, questions or comments for Eric at this time? All right, we'll move on to Susan. So you had anything to add? You did submit a written report, Susan. Anything you want to highlight or add?
I didn't hear you, sorry.
I said, we did get a written report from you for the IDA. Anything to highlight or add?
No, just that an offer has been made, and I think maybe Adam can speak to whether it's been accepted for the Economic Development Coordinator position. And we'll be talking about that management services agreement at the end of the meeting. And I just included some of the promotional materials that member Ray Liddick has put together for the marketing committee. And it looks like the IDA is getting ready to market itself a little more. So,
okay, great. Questions, comments for Susan?
And no public safety committee this month.
Okay. Rich, did you have anything? Did you have any COG meetings?
Finance was canceled to solely focus staff and the members on the pending draft budget.
Yeah, I had 2 meetings. I had the Spring Creek Watershed Commission just last evening, and I also had the the COG Executive Committee. I did submit some written reports, and I did submit them a little late, but go ahead and take a chance to read them. If you have any questions, please do reach out to me, but these are part of the record. I saw they went to supplemental, right? I have nothing further on that, unless anybody has any questions to me based off what they read. Okay. Moving on.
Mr. Chair, I would, as Eric alluded to, I would offer that the review sessions for the COG draft budget currently are scheduled for Thursday, September 28th, starting at 8:30. Tuesday, October 10th, also starting at 8:30. Thursday, October 12th, 8:30. And a wrap-up session Thursday, October 19th, at 8:30. I will offer that staff is fighting through a very robust budget with a lot of new faces, and we threw a couple new things at them just at general forum, as well as you might have heard there's a couple construction projects going on in the agency as well. So those dates, we're going to be looking at those. I think a final decision on at least the first meeting is going to occur tomorrow.
Okay.
But we're shooting to keep on to that schedule.
Thanks, Rich. Okay. Thanks for that. All right, let's move on to Planning Commission. Mr. Hoffman, you did submit a written report. Anything to highlight or add to that?
I promise to be very brief.
Okay. We're timing you.
Eric Bernier brief, or?
What's your definition of brief?
Sorry, Eric. Actually, listening to all the comments on the Maxwell plan, I took a lot of notes, and there were some things that we did not consider at the Planning Commission. So what I'm going to do is write up a set of minutes of tonight's meeting, those discussions, and get them to the Planning Commission so that, you know, when we do get a land development plan, we'll have a heads up about some of these issues that I thought were well presented. So that was a good thing. I did give you a report. There are some elements in there that various people have asked for information from staff on information. So those are in your report. So as long as you try to accommodate some of those questions that came up, I'd appreciate it. Other than that, it was a great meeting. 1 hour, we got out. I anticipate when this land development plan comes, there'll be some good discussion about sidewalks I can get into. So, that's it.
Okay, thanks. I know we're going to get to, you know, based off that, and we'll field the rest of the council questions and comments to PC, but I do recall seeing, and we'll get to it on the public map, or the official map, but someone had said about a connection out to Spring Creek Canyon, right? And, you know, that is in that corridor, right? That Charlotte Road corridor. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? Anybody? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Staff, anything else? No assistant manager report? We'll get to that later. All right, DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging reports.
Only thing I have is just acknowledgement that starting at sunset on September 24th is the beginning of Yom Kippur.
Oh.
That's all I had this evening.
Okay, excellent. All right, we're gonna move on from reports to the consent agenda. And tonight's consent agenda consists of CA1, minutes, approval of our September 7th, 2023 public hearing on ordinance O-23-06, which was residential rentals, and our minutes approval of September 7th, 2023 regular meeting. We also received some correspondence in CA2 that consists of A, which is an email from Walter Ebaugh dated September 7th, 2023 regarding resignation from the appointment on the UAJA board. B is an email from Daniel Materna dated September 8th, 2023 regarding the casino. Do any members of council wish to pull any of these items? Anyone like to make a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it, no opposed. All right, moving on to old business. Old business number 1 is Discussion and action on ordinance O-23-03, the official map. And I think, Mike, you're gonna lead us out, right?
Sure, so we talked during the public hearing portion about what the official map is and the intent of this update with the addition of primarily the corridors associated with the pedestrian facilities master plan. Just wanted to highlight that as you are aware, the official map is going through an extensive, both internal and external review process. We did receive some public comment as well as organizational comments that were included with the memo. And as was discussed earlier, one of the things that I would like to highlight is traditionally the official map is something that we will adopt and then we don't see for a number of years and then do a kind of a major update. That's not anticipated to happen this next couple years out. With the work that is going on out in the Dale Summit area, the anticipation from staff is that there will be a need here again, 18, 24 months, whatever it may be, to reopen this ordinance and talk about some potential need for public facilities in the greater Dale Summit area. With that, I will stop and just again acknowledge some of the comments that were received from both the Center Region Planning Agency, Center County Planning Community Development Office, as well as the public input. I did want to note between what we sent you and this evening, we did receive one additional survey. There wasn't a whole lot of information in it other than they agreed with the inclusion of the pedestrian facilities alignments.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, council, questions? There's a lot of information there. So we'll start off with Rich. Questions, comments?
I would just share that on Tuesday night, as a part of my County Planning Commission hat, that this was discussed, and the County Planning Director was very complimentary to the methodology used to get to this point, and in particular the active participation GIS tool for all of this, as council has been throughout this. The only question, I appreciated the comments from the planning agency and the county. My biggest thing is I don't want to do anything to delay this. I want to get it in place, is my personal. How many of these that referenced would be considered de minimis that we could make with this? I'll make a general note, many of the potential corridors, I think that's a tool for us for the future, but I don't think we should delay implementation of this pending fleshing those out. We'll have an opportunity again, I'm sure, as we talked earlier on the Maxwell development. So I guess I would ask, from what I see, what I saw with the planning agency, they're suggesting about the, who has the state investment corridor, identifying those. Is that a low-hanging fruit that could be added?
I think that's de minimis.
Okay. And then the labeling area on Branch Road, that as well. And then the county, from the county, there's a couple editorials. It looked like nothing of overriding substance.
Ray's suggestion to add the Greenway, more to the Greenway discussion there at the bottom, toward the bottom of page 2. That language might be okay to add in. I think when we get into more substantive changes, that's when, we add those connections that Ray was referring.
Well, bottom line, anything that is editorial and de minimis, I support getting in now, but.
There was a few, to your point, Rich, a few editorial things that Ray captured that we've gone ahead and just made note of, typos, those kind of things, and have made some revisions internal to the ordinance itself. But yeah, that's kind of our thought process, particularly with the reference around the addition for the definitions of greenways. It expands rather significantly on what we have currently in there. The official map right now doesn't really call out a lot of greenways. So I would concur with Lindsay's statement that there's an opportunity. I think it's a good comment, it's a well-founded comment and well-rooted in another planning document that's been well vetted throughout the county. So I think there's an opportunity there to take advantage of that when we do open this back up in the future.
Right. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay, yeah, I'll just follow Rich because, yeah, I really had the same comment, you know, and I'm on board with approving as it stands tonight, just noting that we have, you know, those notes, because they are very good comments. I wrote every one of them. I mean, I think everyone's made excellent, you know, comments or additions. The other thing too, you know, just on process, as you stated, Mike, yeah, it's just come back around, but we know it's coming back around, you know, due to, you know, a trigger, but, you know, maybe as we move ahead in the future, we consider a, you know, sort of a periodic review policy and just say, hey, every 3 years, we're just gonna dust it off and look at it. Something along those lines. But that's all I have. Anthony?
No, I have nothing more to add than what's already been said. As we talked earlier, it's a living document, so I don't see any reason why not to move this forward.
Okay. Eric? Any comments, questions?
No, exactly what Rich said. I think he's the one that always says, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. We're going to be seeing this on a somewhat regular basis, which I know staff just loves to hear. The question I had was, in Mike's memo, or Lindsay's, in the memo that's in the packet, you know, it notes the comments from the different entities. Is that correct? The one
Yep.
Yes.
that shows that is in the packet?
Yes.
Yeah, and the comments from Center Region Planning Agency, it makes it sound like they're suggesting those things should be added to the map when they already are on the map. Or am I misunderstanding the purpose of the memo dated September 18th?
I think there was some acknowledgement of things that were already included. They did call out a few things, a few potential corridors for consideration in the future, as well as some continue leveraging additional information from CATA. All good comments. I think where staff kind of falls on the comments received to date that show up in the memo, much like some of the comments received through PC's review as well as Parks and Rec. I think actually, Eric, you were the one that said it at the meeting. These are good things that need a little further vetting. That's kind of the stance that staff's taking with a lot of the comments received on this draft official map. Is those are good comments that need a little further vetting, and we'll add them to that layer that we've retained from the discussion with PC and Parks and Rec, and continue this as we move forward through the next iteration of the official map to continue working on vetting those out.
Yeah, we have a running list.
More specifically, the 3 bullet items.
Sure.
The connection of First Avenue to College Avenue and Airport Connector. Are they just saying, we like seeing those on the map? Because they are on the map. Aren't they?
Not directly. Airport Connector may be on there.
Yeah, it's on there.
Yes. So there are a couple.
And Bush Avenue.
Yeah, it probably falls under the category of duly noted, thank you, CRPA.
But I mean, this is important. They're on the map we're adopting tonight.
Right.
Yes, the Bush Avenue is here. The connector to the airport. And let me just double check First Avenue.
Okay, that's all. It was confusing to me because it seemed like the memo was them suggesting those things be priorities and be added. Maybe I'm reading it wrong and they're just saying, since they're on the map, can we make them a first level priority versus just a placeholder on the map? Maybe that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
anyways, that's the extent of my comments.
I appreciate that, Eric. I didn't read it that way, but now that you pointed it out, I think that's something we can circle back to Jim at CRPA and clarify.
Yeah, just make sure he knows that we have them on the map.
Yep, we will do that.
But I think it indicates prominent examples of the support that cementing their support of the use of plan to identify. So I think it, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Eric?
He's shaking his head no.
Oh, okay, I can't see him. I just see the map. All right. Susan?
No comments. Rich said it well. Everyone else echoed what Rich said, so.
Okay. Staff, anything further to add?
No, appreciate council's review and thoughts on this, and look forward to moving forward with this document.
We have our esteemed colleague from Planning Commission wanting to say something.
Well, we spent a lot of time on that, in fact, a lot of time on that. It'd be nice, I hear that it's in the packet, but I didn't get the packet. But could we get the comments that came back from the various agencies, just so that we can put it into our conversation if there's anything different?
You guys want to keep like a
At least
running
so we're up to
tally?
date with what is being maybe approved tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, I'm making the assumption you guys are kind of, working on some kind of method to keep a running tally and.
Yeah, I don't want to hold up the
Bob's
process
shared,
like
right?
Rich is saying, but I just think if
Yeah.
we have that, maybe you could send it.
Do you want this packet if you want it?
Oh, that'd be great. I'd just take all that paper and put it, good, thank you.
All right.
To your point,
We'll
Mr.
we'll
Week.
include it as an informative in the next planning commission meeting.
Sure, yeah, we do have, the Planning Commission and Parks and Rec Committee made extensive comments, and we have those on a map, and we won't lose track of those for the next time when we open this up.
I envision a gigantic 3-ring binder for the official map. It just gets passed along, year to year, and revision to revision.
We'll call it the electronic binder. Shane has them all in the GIS at this point, so.
Okay. All right, moving on. Well, wait, we do have an
Mr.
action.
Chair, I'd move to adopt ordinance O-23-03, hereby enacting the official map.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say no. All right, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to old business number 2. That is ordinance O-23-08, the fireworks.
I really don't have anything to add in addition to what I presented at the hearing. If there are any questions I might be able to clarify, feel free to ask.
Thanks, Mark. All right, questions for Mark. We've seen this before, pretty straightforward. I don't have any questions. We're over to Anthony.
None.
Rich?
No questions, just general comment. I really like how we're revisiting our newer ordinances after they've been road tested some and doing it more proactively versus reactively.
Susan?
No comments?
Eric?
No comments.
Okay. Who wants to do it?
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 0-23-03. Sorry, there goes.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait. Wait, sorry.
Second.
Second?
All right. So the motion is to adopt ordinance O-23-08, just for clarification. O-23-08, to be correct. All right, and we have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, no opposition.
Who seconded?
Rich.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Pleasure.
Moving on to new business. New business number 1, CTIDA Economic Development Director Agreement. Mr. Broombaugh.
Yes, thank you. Technically, this is the College Township IDA / College Township Council Management Services Agreement. As you know, since May of 2022, your township manager has been serving as the interim executive director for the College Township Industrial Development Authority. Through that process, or through that time, Some improvements in organization and administration have been made, leading the IDA to the point where they had made a decision to move forward in hiring a full-time executive director to assist them in carrying out the mission of the organization. There were some barriers to entry, if you will, relative to the IDA making that hire. The concept that was hit upon was something that is already in use by College Township, which is a management services agreement that we have as a township with the College Township Water Authority, whereby the Water Authority pays for all personnel and ancillary services that are provided by the township through the use of township employees to conduct the work and the business of the Water Authority. Using that as an idea and a concept, the agreement that is before you tonight essentially establishes that arrangement similar to what is now existing with the Water Authority, but establishes that same relationship with the College Township Industrial Development Authority. Through that arrangement, a full-time hire will be made by College Township, and that individual's position will be an economic development coordinator position, and that position will be principally responsible for duties affiliated with the role of the executive director of the College Township IDA. There is a College Township job description. This employee, as immediate supervisor, will be the township manager. Reviews will be conducted by the township, performance reviews will be conducted by the township manager in conjunction with the College Township IDA in a similar way that the township manager's role with the Water Authority is evaluated for performance evaluation each year between both the Water Authority and the township. So what is before you tonight is the agreement that essentially lays out the terms and conditions of this arrangement. Of note, the agreement can be terminated by either party with a 90 days notice, but it's anticipated that it will renew each and every year, and that's written into the agreement as well. There's also a Schedule A that is attached to the agreement that basically identifies all the services that are provided by College Township as of this date to the IDA and the various scales, reimbursement rates that are assigned to each. There are some accounting services, there's some general secretarial services, those types of things that are provided. And the economic development coordinator position is also listed on that schedule. So with that, that's a quick overview, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions or get into more detail relative to the agreement. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so we'll start out with Susan, who's our liaison to the IDA.
I don't have any questions. We've worked on this document extensively, and we have the template for the Water Authority, so I have no questions at this time.
Okay, we'll go to Anthony next, who is on the IDA.
I can't add anything more than what Adam had said, other than the board did approve their portion, or did approve it at yesterday's meeting.
Okay.
On the IDA board. And I do want to add a kudo to the services that the municipality provides to the authority. With Adam's help, Jen's help, Bob's help, Jackie, the variety of services that the municipality offers the IDA and helps bring structure to the organization, along with a variety of other things. This is a win-win.
Awesome. Adam, my only question has to do with timing. The expectation when, with approval tonight, when that position would begin and how that coordinates and corresponds with the interim director agreement that we have, and how that gets, ceases.
Right. Yeah, to a point that Susan had made earlier, I'm very pleased to announce that The position of Economic Development Coordinator has been extended, it's been offered, and it's been accepted by Ms. Carrie Miller, who is a former elected official in Gregg Township and presently is the executive assistant to the State College Police Chief, and has been in that role for several years. And she will begin starting us with the assumption that this agreement moves forward tonight here at council. Will be starting on September 25th. In terms of the existing interim agreement, while the specifics have not been worked out, it would be entirely appropriate for that arrangement and the payment that is being made presently by the IDA to the township be extinguished, given the fact that all the costs associated with this position are going to be borne by the IDA itself.
All right, so essentially that agreement does it need to come back to us?
It will come back at the next meeting. We can have that on the agenda, and we can terminate that appropriately.
Okay, thanks. Rich?
No, that was the item. I think either party can terminate, so we're covered there. But as Anthony said, this is a win-win.
Eric?
Nothing.
Okay. There's nothing further.
There is a suggested motion
Yeah.
in the memo.
One
I can make
administrator.
that motion.
One administrator.
Hold on. Go ahead. Make the motion, Eric, and then you can go ahead and ask.
Well, you may have to amend it. Who executes? Who executes the agreement?
That would be the chair
Okay.
in this case.
Yep.
So we authorize the
so
chair.
Authorize the chair, yes.
Yeah, so to the suggested motion, we should add and authorize the chair to execute.
Okay. Move to approve the management services agreement with, move to authorize the chair, move to approve the agreement and authorize the chair to execute the management services agreement with College Township Industrial Development Authority.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All right, that was about a tie. I don't know. Take your choice. Rich. All right, we have a motion on the floor. Seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. There are no opposed. Okay, moving on. NB2, the property lease agreement, 2600 Caroline Industrial Drive. Adam, again.
Actually, I'd like to defer to Mike on this one.
All right.
Call it the assistant manager's report.
All right, great.
As highlighted as part of the 2024-2028 capital improvement program, College Township has identified a need to accommodate growing space requirements for both the Public Works Department as well as the Water Authority. Our current facility at Reese Road, while a good facility, we're basically busting at the seams. It's, we've outgrown that facility and need to expand our footprint a little bit. In relation to that, in late July, approximately 6,000 square foot commercial building located at 2600 Caroline Industrial Drive, which literally is a stone's throw from the existing facility, became available for lease. Staff has been working closely with the realtor as well as the property owner on a lease, and we do view this property as both a reasonable and cost-effective opportunity to address those ongoing space needs for both entities at this time. The proposed lease agreement that is in front of council this evening has the following terms: a 3-year lease with a renewal option for up to an additional 3 years. The rate is $4,000 a month or $48,000 per year in the first year, with a 2% rent increase annually thereafter. And if approved by council, College Township could take possession of this facility on October 1st. The action that we're requesting from council this evening is to authorize the township manager to execute the lease agreement for the property pending a final inspection by the township's insurance carrier.
Okay. Anything else to add, staff? Okay.
Amy, anything? Very good.
Eric, questions, comments?
No, but appreciation to staff for being quick on the draw, nimble enough to recognize this opportunity and take advantage of it as quickly as possible.
Okay. Anthony?
None, thank you.
I don't have anything. I appreciate the work. Rich?
Nothing to add, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Did you ask
Susan? Susan, yeah?
No comments.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I was getting around to Susan. She's right to your left, Adam. She's next. To Rich's left. No. Okay, so no comments, no questions. We do have a recommended action here.
Mr. Chair.
So I'm gonna try a motion again.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to authorize the township manager to execute the lease agreement for the 2600 Caroline Industrial Drive property pending a final inspection by the township's insurance carrier.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
None to two.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, the ayes have it. There is no opposition.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. NB.
Congratulations, good place, Amy.
Thank
All right, great. NB3, everyone's favorite. Woo, this one isn't as bad as PSATs. All right, so this is PA Municipal League resolutions and policy statement. It does have Adam's name beside it. Rich is very heavily involved in this as well as the attending member. I'll take a cue from you guys on how you want to approach this. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a lot in way of introduction. We are a member of two municipal organizations. One is PSATS, Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors. The other is the Pennsylvania Municipal League. Both organizations at their annual meetings go through a process of setting their work objectives as an association. And they do that through a resolution process. This before you this evening is that process for the PML, for Pennsylvania Municipal League, who has an upcoming leadership conference, annual conference, if you will, early October. Mr. Frank is your voting delegate to that. These are the resolutions that have been put forward by the organization members for consideration as to help to develop the work program or the work plan, if you will, for the league. So there are 7, 8, 9 of these, and in terms of they're relatively self-explanatory. Some are a little unusual. The only thing that I would suggest to council is to keep in mind the nature of PML in terms of the participants is more urban oriented than is the PSATS organization, which tends to be a little more rural, which is one of the reasons why we happen to have a foot in each. We're a little large and a little more urban or suburban than many of our PSATS counterparts, but we're not quite as urban as some of the PML participants. So that's the reason we're involved in both organizations. But some of these particular resolutions don't have a great deal of applicability to College Township. Nonetheless, it's important to be able to give direction to your voting delegate to know how council feels about these issues.
So Rich, are you thinking you want a consensus from us per resolution on whether we support or oppose?
My thought was brief by exception.
Okay.
You know, if there's, I would only offer, I did not note anything that raised a red flag to me in review of them. I think they're much more straightforward and well laid out than potentially PSATs, and fewer. So I think that helps us all.
Yeah, so let's kind of, an idea, and I like your idea about exceptions. So let's kind of look at this from a consent agenda point of view. We have resolutions 1 through 9, and please speak up if you wish to pull a resolution to discuss. If not, we can essentially provide a consensus to Rich that we support all 9 resolutions. We good with that? Thumbs up? Okay. All right. I think we're done with NB3. Get what you need?
I certainly have.
Okay. Staff informatives. Do we have anything? Council, other matters?
I do have an informative, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to advise council that Holly Riddle from the Town and Gown, we did connect last week and we spoke. So it's a potential article in the January Town and Gown. The topic of discussion is what municipalities are doing to encourage entrepreneurs, businesses to come into the area. So some of the questions that were talked about was like our road network, what types of industries would be best in this area. What we're doing as a municipality to encourage business development and growth. So I just touched on things, especially, you know, out in the Dell Summit and what we're looking to do out there, where we're encouraging things. We talked about how we can review our zones and how we're continually reviewing our ordinances or the zoning and different allowed uses. The one example I used was Corning is in the industrial revitalization zone, and you know what we had done there, the different allowed uses where we now have Stuckey where it wasn't allowed there before. And then we just touched on some other things. And then kind of gradually went into College Township having an industrial development authority that can assist small businesses, entrepreneurs, existing businesses from a financing standpoint and such. You know, she wasn't aware, I think a lot of folks aren't aware that we are one of the few in the area active IDAs with funds that can do a variety of things. So that was the discussion at hand. She drafted a variety of things. She's going to be sending it over in the next few weeks or so. I'll provide it to the council and just ensure we're in sync on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Anyone like to make a motion? Oh, Eric's got his hand up. Yep.
Just a quick question. I didn't want to bring it up during the agenda, but I noticed the address for the property releasing is Caroline Industrial Drive. Isn't the address for current facility Reese Road?
Yes.
It is. There's,
Okay.
there are
They're
two
right
axes.
next to each other, and one is considered Reese Road and one is considered Caroline?
Yes, there's actually an access drive off of Caroline Industrial that goes to the backside, as well as one off of Reese Road.
Okay, so that's why, I guess. Okay, I just was curious, because they're equal distance away from the road and equal distance to Reese Road, it seemed. Anyways, that was it.
Okay. All right. Accept a motion to adjourn. Anyone cares to make that? No?
It's too early.
It's too early. We gotta wait
Can I make a motion?
10 more minutes at least. Yeah?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right. We are adjourned.